That is the worst bag for the environment. Problem with coffee bags is they've got about 5 different materials in them, and you try and recycle that.
It's 2010 and this is Artisti Coffee Roasters. That's right, you might not have seen what we used to look like. We were black, red and white. And over time, we've been on a journey to change our look and feel. And you might be familiar with how we are now. But every time we've made a change, we've definitely been thinking about the future, the sustainability, and how we can be better at our business. So along the way, we've made some different changes in the cups and the products that we choose to use. So we're really excited to take you on that journey and dive a bit deeper into why we've made some changes and what sustainable packaging is really about. So about 5 years ago, we made the decision not only to change the look and the feel of our products, but also partner with Eco Barista to be able to make some sustainable changes in our packaging. So we've got Zac here from Eco Barista that's going to help us explain as to why you should make a change for sustainable products in your business. So introducing Zac from Eco Barista, mate. Thanks for coming and joining us here on the YouTube channel.
Thanks for having me.
So mate, look, give us a bit of an overview. Eco Barista, when did it start? What is the journey you've been on, and what does Eco Barista essentially do?
Okay, so Eco Barista was founded back in 2013, and we just identified there was a real gap in the market. Specialty coffee roasters were booming back then, but generic products were getting rammed down their mouths, and there was no product designed specifically for that specialty coffee industry. So that's what we thought, let's have a chat to some roasters and see where this would take us. And then from 2013, so over a decade now, that has been our mission, to partner with roasters and try and help them to become more sustainable, or as sustainable as they can be, and that's with their packaging choices. But we didn't want them to give up on quality and coffee freshness, branding and design and product design. So all of those things are really important, but we wanted them to just keep a focus on sustainability, and that's how it's really started and sort of gone from there. Yeah. Okay,
so with that focus, what's the core range of packaging and offering that you actually have? Obviously cups and lids.
Yep.
But you extend to what other areas?
Yeah, so back in the day, we started with providing a smaller cup so you could use less milk and get that right profile for the coffee. There was just nothing on the market, and it was, using one size lid and really trying to help the roaster. That's where it started. And then we quickly realized that coffee bags as well, they just weren't fit for purpose. They were it was also almost over-engineered, you could say. The landscape was changing dramatically, and this is over a decade ago, with roasters was setting up next to their customers. They didn't have to ship them across Australia or across the globe. So it was really rethinking the way that packaging was being designed and making sure that it was designed as sustainable as possible, and then also giving those smaller companies an opportunity to put their brand on their packaging. So it sort of has two arms. It's coffee related. We are coffee, and it's coffee cups and coffee bags.
It's actually funny you bring that up about that change. A few years back, the brown Kraft bag was an eco bag because you could put your stamp on it and look like it was paper. Mate, just give us a bit of a myth buster. Was that a quality good bag for the environment? That is the worst bag for the environment. Yeah. So yeah, over a decade ago, those were the bags that were everywhere, and unfortunately, we're almost seeing a resurgence in those bags, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you guys about today, because you have it. There is an exciting product on the market, which is a pure paper bag, which is a Kraft bag. It's got a micro amount of plastic in it, but it fits within the curbside recycling threshold. It's a great product if you're next to your customers, and it's sustainable. It does have plastic, yes, but it can be recycled through your normal paper stream. So it's got a really good end of life sort of solution there, but it's getting muddled up with the like you say, the nasty coffee bag that was around, and it still is around. And that bag is actually this bag. So you've got when we started, the problem with coffee bags is they've got about 5 different materials in them, and you try and recycle that. For a 50-cent or $1 bag, it might cost you $10 to recycle it, so that's never going to happen. So you have aluminium or a metallized layer, you'll have plastic, you'll have a valve, a hard plastic valve, and then you'll have it in a Kraft bag, which makes the consumer think they're buying a sustainable product, but actually it's full of everything and it cannot be recycled. So okay, yeah, well, we might come back to bags, because I think there's a lot of tech there and a lot of terminologies that we need to work through. Yeah. So let's go back to cups. All right, so obviously the word in the street out there is that the coffee cup is bad for the environment. It's a big statement, but I think definitely when we started and look at this product here, we've got a plastic lid with a paper cup and plastic lined. You know, that's where we were 10 years ago. And then obviously we've made some transitions towards the word compostability is probably the overall statement. So with all these different types of labels and products available, what do you reckon is the most sustainable product that a cafe should look for right now?
Perfect. Well, yeah, I'd stay away from the double wall cup because that one uses extra material, so you don't need to that. So you're better off using a single wall cup and making sure it's compostable, and then if the supplier says it's compostable, make sure it's certified to Australian standards. Then you're doing the best you possibly can. Ideally use a compostable lid. They do come with a bit of a price tag, but it is worth it in the long term. So whilst it's tempting, if you look at all of your business and its cost, I think just spending a little bit more on sustainability really pays off, and it gives you a real clear point of difference, and I think that's something that Artisti's identified. And it sort of supports the value that they're providing, that you guys are providing.
Yeah, for sure. I know everybody is just about price. It's such a big thing. Cost of coffee, raw materials, everything going up. But what cost is that affecting our industry, the environment overall?
Yeah.
It's a small price to pay to have the big picture in mind.
Exactly, and that's it. I think small price to pay is important because you've got to look at your costs over the whole framework, and to be a little bit more sustainable probably doesn't impact your business that much. Yeah.
So we're starting to see a few changes. A few years back there were some calls for certain cups to not be sellable in around Australia. I know plastic knives and forks, things like that have all been taken out, or single-use plastics has been tackled.
Yeah.
But there's some interesting stuff happening in WA at the moment, and I think maybe South Australia's trying to catch on to that as well. But WA, what's that market look like right now?
Yeah, so WA were sort of the leaders there. And we've got a big presence in WA, and we were sort of at the forefront of that change. And ultimately, WA has banned massive parts of the single use, and in terms of coffee cups, so your polyethylene cups are actually banned in WA.
Oh, wow.
So you cannot buy a polyethylene cup. It has to be certified compostable. And the other thing, they brought that in, and that was a success because all cafes got on board, like, let's just try and be one step better. So that was that. And then the next move was actually to get rid of plastic lids, and they've moved now to a compostable lid, and it needs to be a home compostable lid. So some big changes which were a little bit scary, and look, they weren't easy, but the net benefit is that everything in WA from the coffee point of view is actually now compostable and certified. South Australia has also done the same. So I think it's scary when you hear the term banned, but you've actually got to look into it, and it's things are generally not banned. It's just certain products are banned.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wow. That's two big states in Australia that are starting to make a significant government change from the top down.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So. Even though you might be in a cheap cup now, you're gonna and not thinking about the environment, get on board. It's going to happen. It sounds like in the States.
You be in front of the curve, so to speak. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Cool. So the cup's out of the way. It's time to talk about coffee bags. Now it's been a big thing, a big shift for sure. People didn't have a brand, or we had that brown paper bag we talked about on the outside with some terrible insides. The landscape's changed a lot, and obviously we've got our range here in front of us. But the good old plastic bag with the foil and metal inside. Not a great option, but mate, tell us about it. Yeah,
and I think fit for purpose is where we should start. I think bags just were over-engineered, and like the double wall cup, some things were in the product that wasn't needed. So it was about stripping the bag back, and the landscape change was special to being closer to their customers. So working with recyclers, we came up with a soft plastic bag, which is a really good option. And everything we design has got to be for sustainability and also for coffee freshness, because that's really important. There's no point in having to repack coffee because then you're using more materials. So there's a mixed soft plastic bag with a reusable, removable valve, I should say, and that's a really great product. And you can still do some awesome printing on it. Fantastic. What's probably happening now is that because everyone wants to recycle, okay, mixed plastics is great, but let's try and make it even easier, because it's all about creating value within the recycling chain. So it's now you'll hear the term mono. So it's getting rid of the mixed and turning it into a mono soft plastics bag. So one type of plastic. This is there's a bit of a different in terms of the characteristics, but ultimately it keeps the coffee fresh, it transports well, and it's strong. And then the exciting thing is, I guess, over the last 3 or 4 years, it's been about, is my bag getting recycled? But now you can actually put the onus back on the roaster and actually build it with post-consumer recycled content, so PCR. So you're actually putting recycled plastics into your bag. So it's actually, instead of just relying on something else, it's actually taking that responsibility on in a way. So that's sort of moving down the plastics road. And then we've also got compostable bags as well. And again, finding out, what works for the roaster and what works for the cafe. But we've designed a really exciting compostable option. And then there is those paper bags, which we sort of spoke about at the start of the show.
So if you're a consumer, let's say, and you're going to the supermarket and buying a bag of beans, we always talk about freshness. Find that roast date and the age. And if that has a huge long expiry on it, it's most likely going to be a foil-lined bag, because we have to have, as you said, an over-engineered bag to make it last longer. So that might be one identifier. But we want to keep beans fresh. So if we've got a compostable, biodegradable product, it'll probably deteriorate or lessen its quality over time just naturally. So that aligns with the coffee usage. What tips would you give to, let's say a coffee company that is going to change their branding? How could they save? I mean, we've got a box bottom here and a side gusset bag. Is there anything you'd think about in terms of what decisions you'd make on the actual shape of your bag? Yeah,
so I guess we've lived coffee and we've been humbled to work with some of the leading specialty coffee roasters in the market. So we've learned a lot about what's important to coffee roasters. And look, coffee freshness is number one. So I think the pointers I would give is find out where your coffee's being sold. Start there, and then what does the end of life need to look like for you in terms of recyclability or compostability? So find out what's important, and then it's about designing the bag and selecting the material that best works for your operation, whether it's going to be a mixed soft plastics, the mono structure, compostable, or your paper craft bag. So there's a lot of choices that you can make, but you've just got to work out where your coffee's going to be sold. If longer shelf life's really important, you probably want to stick with the mono structure and putting as you say, a metallized layer in there. But you can keep that now within the mono family, and it can keep coffee fresh over the long term.
Yeah, okay. So right now we have our retail products, 250, 500s in the box bottoms. So that's a 5-panel bag, I believe. Front, back, left, right, and bottom.
Exactly, yeah. So there's a bit of material in that.
There seems to be. They actually feel a little bit more weighty. And then in our cafe volume, because 1 kilo is basically go out to all of our cafe partners, we've got the side gusset bag, is that what you call it?
Exactly, yeah.
So if we had a side gusset bag and a box bottom in a 1 kilo, in terms of actually usage of plastic, so if we're saying, hey, I want to reduce the use of volume of material, what difference would there be between those two products in the 1 kilo? Yeah,
look, it's a great question. So using a side gusset, you're actually saving on material, so therefore you're being more sustainable. So I guess it's another myth buster here. Sustainability doesn't have to cost more, it's just got to be well thought out. And that's why it's about having those questions up front at the start. If you use less material, you're saving on costs. You are saving money, and then you are saving on the environment, because that, no matter if it's getting recycled or composted, if it's not material, then it's more sustainable ultimately. So a side gusset is a great option for when it's just getting opened and thrown into the hopper and then thrown in the bin or the compost bin. So definitely thinking about the materials and the type of bag that you use is definitely a sustainable choice. And another one as well is to just lead me on here. Why send it in a 1 kilo when you could send it in a 3 kilo? A 3 kilo bag is going to save you it's going to be much cheaper, but also it's going to use way less materials. And that's crazy to come from me, from a packaging supplier, but I want our customers to be more sustainable. So let's use less. That is the place to really start and think about the design and the way the bags are made.
For sure. That's an interesting conversation. I've seen other roasters do it, a 3 kilo bag or a 2 kilo bag, as opposed to a singles. I guess we've always looked at singles packed that way, and probably just lifting up onto a hopper and things like that. But I don't know. Maybe that's something we need to look at. Can we look at using?
That's it. Let's talk about where your products are, and if you're delivering those products yourself, and sending a 3 kilo bag through longer distances may not be an option. But if you're delivering locally, Why not reuse the 3 kilo bag? But that's a question for another day. But we did design a 3 kilo bag, and we actually have put cut lines in it. So we don't want you to come and buy more packaging from us. We want you to use that packaging as much as you possibly can.
So go to the cafe, they use it, then they bring it, they send it back to you and you reuse.
Cut the top off, reseal it, and go again.
Wow, there you go. Didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess that's what we love doing, and that's been from the start with Eco Barista. It's talking to roasters, finding out what they need, designing that solution, and then offering them the solution and the product, and just keeping a focus on sustainability. And if we can save people money along the way, why not, hey?
Yeah, cool. I mean, it was our choice to, I guess, hero those sort of conversations. If you're going to go down this path, make sure you communicate that message to your home user or even the cafes. On these little bags here, again, it says, relax, this bag is recyclable, remove the valve and place it in your local soft plastics stream. Enjoy responsibly. So obviously that's the soft plastics line. The home compostable line would have a slightly different message in that one. I guess probably one big myth to bust out there is that soft plastics chain of recyclability. You know, the supermarkets had their big Redcycle kind of program going.
Yeah.
Where do coffee bags fit into that scenario these days?
Yeah. So as we all know, Redcycle failed, and it became ultimately too successful, and it had a lot of plastics in there, mixed plastics, which makes it really hard to recycle. So if it's a small amount, you can recycle it. But the problem was it became too successful ultimately, and there wasn't enough guidelines around what type of soft plastics. Yes, there is soft plastics, but what types? Because you've got to create value in the chain, and then it's the demand side of things. Who's buying that recycled material? So that's why I think that, you know, Gen 2 is about us putting recycled content into our bags, because then you're creating that circular economy. And trying to, like 10 years ago we took aluminium out, but now it's about even taking different plastics out and really just making sure we're using one plastic that actually has recycled content. So you're really designing, and it's a common phrase, but it's designing with circularity in mind. So look, I think there is now there's Recycle Smart down in Sydney, which is becoming really successful. So, you know, Redcycle failed, but there are now new solutions getting put in place. But I think, you can throw your bag in the recycling bin, or a brand can spend the time and the effort to make a recyclable bag, but it's about taking some of that onus back. So let's use some recycled content in it. Let's buy some products, maybe some park benches that you can put out the front of your cafe that are made from plastics recycled. Everyone's got to do their bit, and let's try and do it as cost effectively as possible. Yeah, so that's sort of the exciting journey, and you know, you'll hear of APCO, Australian Packaging Covenant. They're really now bringing in some 2030 targets to really try and bring everyone in line. And unfortunately, the people that aren't, the brands that aren't going to be coming in line, there's probably going to be some penalties there as well over time. So,
sure.
Yeah.
So what is the bag that a roaster should look for, or even a cafe? You know, if they're looking at, getting a new roaster on board and looking for a change of an alternative, and they want that sustainable tick, what should that product be called, or they should ask for in terms of the bag?
Can I say 3? Because I think depending on the operating, Compostable, which is our home certified compostable bag, and that people thought Compostable couldn't have oxygen barrier, but it's got an incredible oxygen barrier. So there's a fantastic product out there in a home compostable bag that has a oxygen barrier as good as mono. The con is the price point. If you need to, and price is important, then your mono structured plastic bag with PCR is your go-to. Finally, if you don't mind, coffee freshness is less important because you're delivering directly to your consumer, then you can use those paper bags. There's a great thing, and they go straight in the recycling bin.
Yeah, great.
So there's 3 great options out there these days.
Yeah, brilliant.
And if you buy those Kraft bags, just make sure there's not a whole bunch of other stuff on the inside.
Oil.
Yeah.
So Zac, that pretty much covers up, I guess, the cup and the bag, and what sort of product people should be looking for their choice, basically, to move forward and be sustainable. It sounds like the industry is moving forward in terms of new products or new materials, or getting rid of the bad ones. But where's that blockage? I mean, some of these products are going to either be in your home compostable, which is fantastic. Others are going to go to the bin at the park, or some of it might actually end up in that yellow recycling bin at home. But what's the reality? When we know some of the challenges there at the councils and the tips and things like that are a bit of a blockage. So where do you see the future being fixed there?
Yeah, look, it's a really big question, but it's ultimately about alignment, and the Australian Packaging Government, so APCO, are trying to create some really tight guidelines for us as brands to work within, so then recycling, composting becomes much easier. So that's really important, and it's about developing that infrastructure over time. So it's working with, okay, you're a roaster, let's move to the mono, so that infrastructure can get developed and there's actually value at the end of the chain. So it's really exciting. It's at the big end of town. It's with government now. So there's a lot of opportunities on the horizon. And as a brand like Artisti has done, it's about getting ahead of the curve and doing best practice, doing what is best right now, and waiting for that infrastructure and that part of the industry to really catch up. And talk to your local council. You pay rates. Why don't we have a commercial composting facility? We've got the cups, let's go.
For sure, why not? So there you go, we've had some history about some, different types of products, getting into the future, looking at great stuff, but we all know it's not just about beans in a bag. There's sustainability and some responsibilities we all carry across the industry to be progressing and moving forward. We love the beans and we do so much work to get the right stuff in there. Obviously the packaging is a key part, but overall, what's Eco Barista doing to manage all of that and still look forward to being sustainable in the future?
Yeah, well, I think, put simply, it's about being a good business, and that's why we love working with companies like Artisti. You're trying to do the best you possibly can across all of the facets, whether it's quality control, sustainability, quality of coffee. All of these things are really important, and just pushing really hard, working towards things like B Corp. That's another one. It's not just about sustainability, it's about being a good business, and that's not just that's not a short-term decision. It's about creating a long-term business and a really long-term value proposition, I guess. Yeah. Coffee doesn't just taste good. It's in great packaging. It's being manufactured fairly. It's been grown fairly. So it's a whole sort of package. And Eco Barista just loves chatting to roasters. So if you want to come on this journey with us and see where we can help you in different parts of your business, then yeah.
Awesome.
Be in touch.
Yeah. So B Corp, just to clarify, is a certification for businesses to cover what specifics?
To be good in a way. It looks at sustainability. It looks at employment. It looks at manufacturing capability. It looks at a raft of areas, but just making sure that you're being sustainable or good across all of your practices. And it's not just sustainable in terms of the environment, it's about sustainable people practices, transport, all of these facets of your business. It sort of looks at it and it gives you a bit of a benchmark and a score, and it's a great thing to look into, yeah. Yeah,
great. I think we'll look at that down the track for sure.
Yeah. Good work.
It can be better all across all the board, and get good product in a good bag out to customers for you to enjoy every single day. Well, Zac, thanks very much, mate, for enlightening us on the topic that gets a bit tricky.
Yeah, no worries.
Might not be the most exciting topics, but it's so fundamental to our business.
Yeah,
we can't get beans out to customers. We can't put a liquid product in your hand to enjoy every single day. And I'm glad there's businesses like Eco Barista that are just moving forward and trying to keep us in alignment for the best sustainable future.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks, mate, for coming
Cheers.
in. Really appreciate it. Check them out, ecobarista.com.au.
That's it.
Easy, there you go. And they'll help you out with all your solutions. Anyway, any other questions around packaging, cups, or whatever it might be, pop them in the comments below. I know Zac and the team will follow those and get some answers for you as well. If we can't answer it, they'll get the solution. Look forward to starting that chat in the comments below. All right, thanks very much for watching, everyone. Catch you next time. Cheers.